Hello, this is Father Louis Scurti. I'm here once again at St. Timothy's Church in Lutz, Florida, interviewing Father John Lipscomb, who was formerly a Baptist, then Anglican. I like listing all these roles. Anglican, an Anglican priest, and an Anglican bishop, and came over to us as a Catholic priest, layman, Catholic priest, and eventually with his wife as well. I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate it. What was the ministry between the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church? How similar, dissimilar did you find them?
I think it's a matter of scale. Quite frankly, as an Anglican priest, the sacramental life of the church was very much at the core of my ministry. Mm-hmm. I probably had a greater opportunity to have a more direct pastoral role in the lives of the families of my parish because the parishes are much smaller.
Oh, sure.
And I think that one of the things that I really had to get used to coming into the Catholic Church was the scale of ministry.
That's true.
You know, I don't know if you would want to talk about a vocations crisis in the church. Certainly, we don't have the priests that we need to care for the people in the same way we were able to in the Anglican Church.
Okay. Smaller communities. Less priests at work.
To give you an example, my first day of worshiping in the Catholic Church was at Church of the Nativity over in Brandon.
Right.
And I can remember it came time to ask the RCIA class to leave. And, you know, I was expecting 2 or 3 people to get up and leave.
Right.
Well, it turned out to be a class that was about as large as one of the congregations that I would be with on a Sunday.
No, really?
And it was an overwhelming sense of, this is a very different place.
Yeah. Roll up my sleeves.
In terms of size. And I think that has been the major thing, that I can't do ministry here with the numbers of people that I was able to engage in the Episcopal Church.
Lacking intimacy.
It's the lack of intimacy.
Sure. But you're in Florida, I mean, and how many people does this church hold?
The church itself, I think, with cheek to jowl, about 1,500.
Okay, and normal Sundays, it's packed for more than one celebration, so you have a lot of Catholics down in South Florida. We don't have that, regrettably, we don't have that up north. We have dwindling congregations. Some dioceses have closed churches and sold off the property or rented it out and create worship centers of the former churches. So we really, I mean, talk about the vocation crisis. Yeah, it's here because of the great numbers. It's there because of the dwindling numbers.
Right.
But what would you say to that as someone who's been, how long are you ordained? Everything, I mean.
I was ordained originally to the diaconate in 74.
Okay.
Priest in 75 as an Episcopalian.
Okay, so good 40-something years. And you've seen it from all directions as far as the ministry. What's your reaction to the crisis?
The vocational crisis.
Vocational crisis.
I think
we have a lot of crises.
We have a lot of crises.
Yeah, let's stick with that.
Especially this week.
Yeah, let's stick with this one right now.
I think it is a mix of societal issues as well as, in many ways, I would almost want to dissuade anyone from becoming a priest unless they really felt called to the ministry.
Oh, they have to be. Yeah.
Because I think the overwhelming nature, let me put this in another way. My father gave me the best advice I was probably given. In the Baptist church, at least in his church, every year they had World Mission Sunday.
Okay.
Well, one year he decided to ask me to come back when I was in seminary to preach on World Mission Sunday, so he could tell people he'd send his son to be a missionary to the Episcopal Church. And I can remember sitting back in the ready room where we were getting ready to go into the worship service, and said, "Dad, you know, you've been at this for almost 40 years. When did you get over being nervous?" And he said, son, the day you get over being nervous getting into the pulpit, find something else to do with your life.
I love it.
Because you're going to have forgotten the responsibilities
Thank you.
that you're being given.
Thank you. I love it. It's
And
great.
I think that a priest really has to be ready to accept those responsibilities in a profound way. And in some ways, I think that also adds to the vocational issues that we're facing, because it's such an overwhelming responsibility that most of our priests face today. In a society where priesthood, quite frankly, is no longer valued.
Right.
There was a day and age when I think even though clergy weren't the best paid of people, they were very well respected.
Respected. Right. Right.
We have lost that.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that for many people, the benefit of having been a priest is no longer there, that they would have sensed in those days. Again, it's also been part of what's led us into the crisis that we're in, I think.
Sure.
But I really think that it's one of those things that we'll never have the number of priests that we really need, even if we were to triple, quadruple.
The harvest is there.
The harvest is there, exactly.
Right. Interesting. As you're saying this, my mind went back to growing up in Jersey City at ethnic parish, because what I'm connecting with is a lot of the respect that was due priests came from the ethnicity of the groups from the old world,
Right.
and so we were at an Italian parish next to an Irish parish,
Right.
next to a Polish parish. I mean,
No
in
German parish?
3 blocks away.
Okay.
We on Holy Thursday night, the processions, we
Yeah.
made it without dropping a second. We went to all the churches and we covered our 13 or whatever the odd number used to be, but we could walk to them. That's what's interesting. That gave a lot of I would say almost clout to the priest, because they were intimately related to their communities. And I know, looking back now, we know they weren't all perfect, but that's life. I can't focus on that right now. But that intimacy of people being served by someone they understood and how he would eat at their homes. I mean, that's wonderful. I mean, not that I want to eat at everybody's home, but to be invited, Father, come over. What did your mother make? I'll make it for you in the same ethnicity. That's gone.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Well, I think it's the issue that, to a large degree, at least among the Anglo population, we're no longer a church of immigrants.
Yes.
And I think it's one of the reasons we see the strength within the Hispanic communities that are moving in, because they still have that ethnic cohesion that, quite frankly, I don't think other ethnic groups necessarily have anymore. So it's the transition from a missionary church of immigrants
Right.
to a church now that's settled within the culture and having to find a new way of being.
And speaking of missionary activity, we're the missions now, accepting vocations from all around the world.
Exactly.
Because we're the mission territory.
Absolutely.
With all the crisis in the church, whether it's the clergy abuse, whether it's politics, whether it's anything, my gut is we got through the Crusades, we got through the Inquisition. The Holy Spirit stayed faithful to us, even though sometimes we weren't faithful to the Holy Spirit. I think we're going to make it through this. I don't know what it'll look like when it's done. What's your reaction?
I think Pope Benedict may have been prophetic at one level when he said the church may be smaller.
Yes.
It may be poor, and it may be necessary for us to be faithful.
Isn't that a kick? It's true. How important that is, that we as clergy not only remain faithful, project faithfulness, preach about it, but really be an example in the community. And that's a tough.
Yes, it
That's a
is.
cross. What role does your family have in this parish? I mean, wife of the priest.
Yeah. She worships here.
Okay.
She has friends in the parish.
But you lived in the parish several years now, right?
Oh yeah, we've been. I think this is my 5th year here at St.
Okay.
Timothy's.
And my gut, she's not looked upon as an anomaly.
No. We have been very blessed in this parish, and that she and I have both been received very warmly by the congregation.
That's
We're
great.
very blessed with the pastor that we have. He has been very receptive to the ministry that I've been able to bring. But I think part of that too is my wife doesn't take an upfront role. She'll enjoy going to our women's club when they have things. She'll help with various events, but she doesn't feel like she needs to be in a leadership role just because she's the wife of one of the priests here at the parish.
Great, great.
She has her own faith and her own way of living out that faith.
Excellent, excellent.
While the two may have become one flesh, it is not one necessarily vocation.
Right. Your children are what faith?
Our daughter goes to an evangelical church. My son, quite frankly, is not a churchgoer. He spent 22 and a half years in the Army, and I think if he were sitting here, he'd probably tell you the closest he comes to religion is he was in the 82nd Airborne, and St. Michael is their patron.
Oh, well, at least we got a feather in there. John, this has been wonderful, and I'm sure we'll have other thoughts to share later on, but I really appreciate your
It's been my joy.
openness to it, and we'll continue the conversation.
Great.
God bless you. Thank you. This has been Father Louis Scurti with Father John Lipscomb, and you know his history, so I'm not going to repeat it. A member of the parish here and parochial vicar, as we say, here at St. Timothy's, Lutz. Let me hear from you, Father Louis Scurti at hotmail.com. God bless you.